Good evening. Welcome to the Community Consolidated School District 46 Board of Education meeting. We are at Grays Lake Middle School this evening on Wednesday, July 16th. Can I get a call to order and a roll call, please?
Mack is absent. Braden?
Here.
Nash?
Here.
Halverson?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
And Weedman. Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Will you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. Can I get a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda, please?
Miller? Halverson?
Aye.
Weedman?
Aye.
Braden?
Aye.
Hume?
Aye.
And Nash.
Aye.
Great. Do we have any public comments? No public comments? All right. That brings us to board reports, and I will start on my right with Ms. Yoon.
Just quickly, it's been a while since we've been together, so I just wanted to give a big thank you and community shout out for the great participation and engagement in our annual Juneteenth celebration of Walk Freedom here in Grays Lake. We continue to grow year over year, and it was super exciting to see. I think we cusped at 200 or so folks out this year, which is outstanding. And this is not possible without the district leaning in, promoting community and inclusion here. And so everything that event culminates is really, kind of cornerstone to our mission of creating equity, cultivating community, and empowering learners. So I was really proud to see not only the district so well represented, the board colleagues, but also we had our newly elected mayor, Mayor Davies, come out and do a welcome address. So very well attended, and I'm grateful for all the volunteers and the district leaning in to continue to support this year over year, because our community is truly engaged by it and we're having impact. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My only board report for this evening is a note that the board reviewed closed minutes from the past few months of our closed sessions on April 23rd, and none were approved for release.
So I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Wildman and thank you also for the podcast and the article that were both published in his professional organization. And I want to thank you for really holding up members of our whole community, from volunteers to Amanda to a whole bunch of people who participated and make an impact in sustainability. So thank you for doing that. Very much appreciate that team effort and team recognition. So thank you. Along those lines, I also want to hold up Mayor Davies, because the CEC walked with her this morning and learned a little bit more about Gelatin Park and the restoration of that area, as well as Central Park and the new area across from Dog and Suds, if you're familiar with that walking path. And it launched into a discussion about flood mitigation and water filtration, which was fantastic. She started to talk about Mill Creek, which of course impacts Frederick School, and some of the effort that's in the planning stages in order to make that more of an amenity for our community too. So I wanted to make you aware of that. And then just fun fact, when the gelatin, if you didn't already know this, when the gelatin stack was excavated and all of that area was restored, they found 20 feet of dead birds in that smokestack. So thank you to those people who had to clean that up. So yes, not exactly toxic, but certainly unpleasant. So yes, so fun fact. That's my board report.
Can we?
I'm so not used to her. That's right. So as part of my job with the fire department, I deal with the hazardous materials parts for the county. There's new legislation on the books that is working its way through the system regarding hazardous materials in school districts and schools and emergency planning for that. So you know that's coming down the pipeline, that you'll have to include any businesses or buildings in town that might affect the schools, like even the rails. So the rail that goes past Meadowview and all that will also have to be included in those plans. So that is coming your way as soon as it gets signed down south. But that was one thing that I had learned today while I was at the Emergency Planning Commission. So just pass it along.
For the superintendent's report.
Thank you so much. Well, I will start by just a few comments about our location tonight. Board, thank you for your flexibility and understanding, and thank you to our O&M team and Mr. Smith for helping us kind of on a moment's notice reschedule our meeting right here to GMS. We had to do that because we're in the process of putting in our new chiller over at Frederick, and so it just wasn't ready for us and was too warm. But it's nice to be back in this area, which board members who've been around for a while, along with administrators, you know, we used to have many a board meeting. In fact, for a while, all of our board meetings in this space. And we're just so now used to our space over in the Falcon Room, as evidenced by the fact that we don't actually have all the proper equipment here anymore. We are sharing mics. We know our sound isn't going to be pristine. So to anyone who's watching this at home, we do apologize that there may be some sound issues. As you mentioned, we're all sitting in different places, so it's just the wild, wild west tonight here at GMS. And I want to welcome everyone to a new fiscal year and the start of the 25-26 school year. I say that knowing, of course, our little friends are not on site yet, but they will be soon. And of course, the planning is happening. People are very busy getting ready for our students and for our staff to come back. And in fact, since it's after July 1, it is officially the beginning of the 25-26 school year. And I want to welcome our new administrators to our school district, starting with one who's sitting at the table. We have Amber Bogren here, our new director of ML Services. We're so glad you're here, Amber. Welcome. We have not at the table, but just want to mention them to you. James Van Narden, our new facilities manager, who is already proving his worth so significantly, stepping up consistently and helping Jose Zayers quite a lot. And he's just started. We have Jeff Higgins, our new principal of Meadowview, who has been very busy hiring new staff and getting used to his new school. He's had people drop in and see him, and he's really enjoying his new digs. And we have Ryan Lazar, the new assistant principal over at Frederick. I got to see him today as we were talking about some matters to do with Frederick, and he too is setting up his office, hiring people, and getting the schedule going. So very, very busy man. And then not new to our team, but I do want to mention that Mary Murphy is the new assistant principal right here at GMS. You know that she was previously the assistant principal at Frederick and transferred back over here to GMS. I say back because prior to being the principal at assistant principal at Frederick, she was a dean here at GMS. So that's our new team, and I'm going to right before I hand this over to you, Amy, since then I'll have to grab the mic back otherwise, I do want to mention, board, that as per your request, we have set up our board schedule moving forward with 4 finance committee meetings scheduled as a part of the regular board meeting rotation. I know that Mr. Wildman will be talking about that later when we're presenting information about our strategic plan. All right. Here we go.
Good evening. As Dr. Glickman shared, we are busy getting ready for the upcoming school year with our students, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about our math trainings. As you know, you approved a new math resource for this coming school year, K-8, 2 different resources. And so we started our training sessions in the spring. And so 6th through 8th grade had some training sessions in May with a trainer on site. But this week specifically, we've had some optional training sessions for K1 on Tuesday, 2-3 today, and 4-5 will be tomorrow. And those are focusing on really helping to show what a lesson will look like within those within that resource, and then helping our teachers to be able to think about what planning can look like for Unit 1, so they're prepared. For our students, there will be some planning sessions next week for our 6th through 8th grade teachers, so we have lots of people coming in to work on math. And then for those who were unable to come over the summer, but actually for everybody, we will have our trainers for both resources on site again on August 12th as one of our opening day activities. So really excited. We've been getting incredible feedback from our staff, and they're excited to start digging into the new resources that we have.
Thank you, and I want to apologize and correct an error. Apparently, I said that the new principal at Meadowview is, I'm not going to state it again, but the name is Jeff Prickett. I believe I said Jeff Higgins. Putting together Jeff Prickett, who is the new principal at Meadowview, and Josh Higgins, who became the principal of Woodview last year. And if you could just take the mic away from me and keep the meeting moving, that would be best for everyone.
Thanks, Dr. Glickman. Can I get a motion to approve our consent agenda, including the personnel addendum that was sent to us earlier today?
So moved.
Brayden,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
Hume,
Aye.
Halverson,
Aye.
Miller, and Weedman.
Great, thank you. All right, this takes us to our action items, and first action item is a motion to approve board policies 118. Do I need to say anything else regarding the detail around the policies for the vote? Okay, great. Motion for that? Thanks.
Weedman, Miller, Nash,
Aye.
Brayden,
Aye.
Hume, and Halverson.
Okay. Next, we have a motion to approve the Grays Lake Federation of Teachers contract.
I'll move. I'll second.
Hume,
Aye.
Brayden,
Aye.
Halverson, Miller, Weedman, and Nash.
Aye.
Okay, and finally, can I get a motion to approve the administrator contracts for 2025-2026?
So moved.
I'll second.
Halverson, Brayden,
Aye.
Hume,
Aye.
Miller, Nash,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Okay. Those are all our action items for this evening. We're going to move on to unfinished business, and first up we have a Wold Architect Media Center update.
All right. Before we jump into the presentation, I'll just give a quick update on the construction that's happened this summer since Dr. Glickman mentioned the work over at Frederick. Here at the middle school, the boilers are, all that work's basically done. They're in the process right now of just kind of fine-tuning some of the temperature controls and getting that integrated in. So that's going to be ready to go in the next couple weeks. Over at Frederick, chillers installed. They are ready to start it up, I believe, at the end of this week or maybe early next week. And then they've got the same, just sort of some controls integration to get that wrapped up, and Prairie View's about a week behind that. So they're just kind of going and stuff. So everything's right on track where we need to be, ready to go for the start of school and ready to get rocking and rolling. So with that, we'll jump into the stuff that's on the books for next summer's work. which is the media school stuff. You said this does not work, correct? It does work? It does not. Turning it on helps? Sometimes. All right, cool. So our agenda real quick tonight, we're going to start off with a quick review of the floor plans just to sort of get everybody up to speed and see how the feedback from the core planning group and the user groups have been overlaid onto the buildings to see those adjacencies and everything. We're also going to talk about the student feedback section that we had, which was a great time, and then sort of the next steps that involve the design committee, how the budget's sitting right now, and then schedule for future steps. So if we want to take a look real quick at Meadowview, this is kind of where the floor plan has settled. Just a couple things to note as we flip through these. If you remember from the core planning group, some of that design criteria was about how the large group and the maker space at the younger kid levels really wanted to have that operable wall between them. So we could open that up to be a larger group session, maybe for full staff, things like that. At Prairie View, the next building, you'll start to see sort of how we've applied where the Media Center Specialist's desk has got visibility kind of to the full breadth of each sort of zone, the large group, the stacks, the story area. It's got some visibility into the small group through a borrowed light window. We then look at Frederick. Frederick starts to become one of the more unique buildings with some of the older students, so there's not a story area in this one. But with those older kids, the adjacency from the makerspace to the STEM started to be more important. So the operable wall is now between those two spaces to allow those to open up and have a shared curriculum or for larger group gathering spaces. As we move on to Park, sort of the same concept. You can see where we pulled the makerspace and the STEM adjacent to each other, which meant that the media specialist moved off sort of to the side for that workroom. It also created a staff workroom with some of the spare space we had left over, which was a need in that building, so that'll be an opportunity for teachers to come and make copies and not have to come in and disturb the students in the media center itself. Like I mentioned, we got a lot of feedback from the students. We actually had 2 student groups that joined us and met with some of our architectural and interior design team. We got some great feedback from them. These are some of the themes that came out of it. Those groups were made up of some of the older students in the district. I think there was remind me if I say this wrong, I think it was a group from the middle school and a group from Park, if I'm not mistaken. So basically those students have lived these media centers throughout their educational experience, so they had a lot of great insights to provide to the group. And really what came out of that was sort of the common themes that are starting to create sort of how the design is going to evolve from this point forward. You'll see in the word grouping here, things like nature, outdoors, earthy. We kind of really pulled from that and are starting to set up this sort of nature theme that's going to drive a lot of the design discussion. Here are some photos from that exercise. So we've got the students broken up into some smaller groups. We had them starting to look at the floor plans as they were at that time. Starting to pull images from magazines and other design books and things like that to start to sort of apply those to how they want to see them applied in the space and get some good feedback from that. We then also had them share those designs with the rest of the groups. There was a little bit of a presentation for each of those small groups too to give their feedback to their peers. And that's really where a lot of those themes, like I said, came from. So our next step then is to form our design committee. As we start to then, like I said, the floor plans are pretty well settled, but now we want to start talking about how do we put paint and how do we put finishes and lighting and all the fun stuff that goes in and kind of gives the space life. So we've, like I said, centered around that nature theme, and what we're going to do then is meet with some of the key users and staff from each building, a couple, 2, 3 people from each building, so that within that theme, each building is going to have its own identity, right? So whether that's one building's the forest theme, one building's the desert theme, one building's the oceanic theme, things like that. We can start to build that identity for that. We'll have a few rounds of meetings where we'll go through that, and the focus, like I said, is going to be really on the materials, the colors, the finishes, and the furniture that's going to go into that space. We've also, at this point, have gotten our first estimate back from our estimator. We're right on track with where we need budget-wise. We're going to start to filter in a couple of alternates just to give us a little bit of flexibility on bid day. So if things go sideways, we've got some ways to get back on track. But right now, we're right where we need to be. Next slide. And then as far as upcoming schedule, this month is a busy month as we start to get our furniture vendor lined up. We actually just had the first round of furniture stuff come up from our vendors off to the administration to take a look at, and we can start to narrow down who we want to work with for that. We're going to meet with the design committee in a couple of weeks, start talking about some of the technology stuff that's going to go into the spaces as we start to do that. And then in the coming months, it'll be kind of refining some of that, starting to get into things like some of the nitty gritty like door hardware and that sort of fun stuff. Before we have our final owner page turn, do our final estimate and get out to bid and come back to you for award in November. Any questions on any of that? I feel like I went fast through that.
I love how the students were engaged and their feedback and ideas were incorporated, and them feeling heard and seen and having a handprint or footprint on this. It's going to be really exciting for all the future kiddos to come. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's always one of the funnest parts of what we do from a design standpoint.
Along those lines, the nature thing, can you talk about how that came up? What exactly were they saying? What was your sense of
I wasn't personally at that. It was people that are much better at design than a mechanical engineer is. But the feedback I got was we basically sort of coached them through like here are the ideas to look at, and it's we sort of get the ideas going with some starter ideas, sort of things like it could be a nature theme, it could be a animal theme, it could be kind of whatever, and then they just sort of blossom off from there. I don't know, Amanda, I think you were there. Is there anything I'm missing with that?
Yeah, I think there were some pictures that they were given of different types of furniture that they could cut up and place on some chart paper to design the space, or blueprints. But
Mm-hmm.
so to design the space, and I talked about how do you want to feel and what do you think about when you're in a space like that, and we're super comfortable. And so the spaces they came up actually with the nature themes. And they used, I think, Meadow View, they were like, oh, Meadow View.
There you go.
So that's really, I think, where that came from. There was talk about an owl, a hawk. What's a bird you? A falcon? No. Furnished with falcon. Eagle? Eagle, yeah. A big paper-mache eagle. So, anyways, lots of excitement, and it was one of my favorite days. So that's great.
Yeah. Will it be timed for the finals in because each school has, like how many, well, they'll host the week by week,
Yeah.
by the weekly state. Will it be tied to that, or is it just April in general?
So
Go ahead. Run with it. You're doing great.
maybe I got silly with that one. But Meadow View, definitely it was selected Meadow View. I think there was like some Arctic, ocean type themes for Frederick that were discussed.
I think a lot of those themes were tied to the school colors too.
Yeah, and so it was like
So the oceanic was the blue, the building that was the blue one.
Including the colors that are already existing throughout the school, right, in the building, correct? Yeah.
All right. No problem. We'll be back again for another one probably in a few months.
Thank you. Very exciting.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have FOMO on those. Anytime there's a word cloud, I'm about it. All right. Yeah. All right. Our next item for unfinished business is a strategic plan update.
Picking up sound like this? What do you think, Amanda? What do you think? Yep. All right. Great. All right, so board, before we start with our strategic plan update, I want to start with a little bit of a reminder about our history. So back in the 2021 school year, we organized around some really important principles and created a new strategic plan together. And we did that with a wide variety of our stakeholders. And we did it during COVID. Remember, we had all those remote meetings, 5 of them, in fact. And during that time, we created a new mission, vision, new values, or we didn't create new values because you have values, right? We identified our values and we created new goals. All of the goals that we're going to be talking about tonight are goals that are from that school year. And we have continued with the same goals up through now. This is our last year of the existing goals. As we're never done, but as we bring to an end what was set forth by the board at that time, and our community. So as you know, in the spring, we are intending to update our strategic plan completely. Whether the board will and the community will choose to renew our mission and our vision and values, that remains to be seen. I think that's a discussion we'll have to have. But certainly there will be new goals. So I'm mentioning that to you as we talk through all of the action steps that were taken during the 24-25 school year and what we're planning to do in the 25-26 school. Where are we on? 25-26 school year, summer, to bring those particular goals to a close before we renew. Oh, I got it. Yeah, there it is. Look. Oh, you did it? Did you do it? So I'll go like this, and you'll know it's time. We'll pretend. I'll go, and you'll go. We got a plan. Now you can see behind the curtain, everyone. All right. So that's the mission that was created back in the day, empowering learners, creating equity, cultivating community. The goals that were written are in service of that mission, and the tasks, so that's what we're talking about tonight, the tasks that were accomplished last year and the ones that we intend to accomplish in this coming school year are also in service of that mission. There it is. All right, now you know how to do it. Okay, curriculum goal 1.
I'm on it. I have to move this up though. Curriculum goal 1 is to review and update teaching, learning, and assessment practices and materials through an equity lens to create culturally responsive learning environments. And as you can see with this list, we've accomplished a lot during our last school year. The first thing was that we focused on instructional practices for inclusivity for all. There were a couple ways that we did that. One of those is through our intervention period. Every school, every grade level has intervention. Most of the schools call it What I Need or WIN. And that's an opportunity for us to be able to meet the needs of all of our students. We're always looking at how do we challenge students that need further challenge and enrichment, as well as how do we focus on supporting our students who might need some further support. And then in addition to that, Dr. Lorenzo spent some time working on this through some of the findings from the opportunity review in order to help to provide our students everything that they need. In addition to that, there was a culturally responsive teaching and leading PDT last school year. That focused on their Illinois culturally responsive teaching and leading standards. Those standards are more about what teachers are doing versus our typical standards that are focused on students. And so that PDT spent some time really digging into those standards, looking at how do those impact our instruction and what are some things that we can do further with those in order to support all of our students, which goes with that first bullet as well, providing inclusivity for all. So very much interconnected. We had class meetings and advisory happening. So class meetings were K4 and advisory was 5-8. Our social emotional learning coaches and our deans helped to structure this time to really focus on some of those social emotional learning needs and provide some opportunities within that to support our students. We had Evolve at all three 5-8 buildings this year. That was some small group intervention that supported SEL or social emotional learning. and they did a presentation earlier to the board in the spring. We also had a math PDT. So remember PDT, I keep using that acronym as Planning and Design Team. The math PDT recommendations were brought to you because our focus was really on an adoption for a math resource and how are we going to continue providing the best instruction in math. So that was those were the recommendations that we brought to you with that resource that you approved. And then we made some updates to the report cards at kindergarten through 4th grade. So we were already a standards-based report card, but they had headings and we didn't have, so this year we added standards as well to provide more clarity for families. You're going to see some of these things come up on the next slide as well as we talk about where we're heading. But it gave us an opportunity to really provide more clarity about what students were learning K through 4. So here's what we're going to do in this upcoming school year related to this goal. We are going to provide some professional learning around those culturally responsive teaching and leading standards to support our staff with that. That PDT was led by Amanda Woodruff and Dr. Diaz. So Amber and Amanda will work together to provide that professional learning and talk about our next steps with our staff. We will continue to establish consistency in service delivery. This was something else that came from the opportunity review, and Dr. Lorenzo is leading her team through some of that, as well as you'll see on our next goal related to consistency in service delivery for our multilingual students as well. So all of that is part of this goal. And then we are continuing to work on formative assessment. So formative assessment is that information that we're gathering along the way throughout instruction to better provide supports for students within our classrooms. So it's how teachers are gathering information to help to design and drive their instructional decision making for things like small group instruction and intervention, to be able to think about how do we best meet all the needs. So kind of goes back to some of the things that we're doing to provide consistent and inclusivity for our students. And then we're going to start talking about 5-8 report card and how we can start moving that up as far as standards based. So we're going to be creating a PDT for that. So that is a lot of work that is happening related to goal 1. So now I'm going to talk about goal 2. There's a lot related to teaching and learning in our goals. As it should be, because we are here to support our students. So this second goal was to investigate options for new or revised course offerings with emphasis on world language, dual language, and encore opportunities. Previously, in previous years, you've heard me talk about a lot of those things. This year specifically, with that, we accomplished implementing our new 5-8 schedule. Which you may remember provided more consistency within our 5-8 buildings and between our 5-8 buildings. I'm going to talk a little bit about that on the next slide as well in a minute. We had our multilingual PDT. That PDT made recommendations for implementation not for this school year, but for the 26-27 school year related to a differentiated multilingual supports and services. And then also looking at our dual language programming in order to provide students a two-way, two-teacher, 50-50 model. So I'll be working with Amber on that this school year, or not this school year yet. That's what we did last school year. And then in addition to that, with the new schedule, we provided consistent encore classes for 5-8. So we offered art, STEM, music, band, and choir during those times for grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. So all the buildings had all of that. So now I'm going to talk about what we're going to do this school year on the next slide. And we have updated that 5-8 schedule. So we implemented that schedule for a year. We gathered some staff feedback related to that. And there are quite a few tweaks that we're going to be making. So I'm going to share some of those with you as well. I'm going to start with 5th grade. This past school year, we had 106 minutes for ELA, and we had 53 minutes for math, science, and social studies. So we had basically a double block for ELA. Some of the staff feedback was that we need more time for math, and science and social studies. And so we had to start to look at how do we do that. We also know with our new math resource that we need approximately 60 minutes to be able to teach that well. And so we looked at what can we do. And so in this upcoming school year, one of the tweaks that we're making is we're going to have the 70-70-70 model again, which is what 6-8 also has. Remember, science and social studies are on that AB schedule, so that will continue. And then, so we're going to have that time. We've talked with, we had feedback on that from staff to be able to look at what's going to happen with ELA. We're okay with that, and we're going to provide the same, we're going to provide deep instruction still for ELA, incorporate some of that into science and social studies as well. We are also moving choir before school at GMS rather than during the school day. That came from feedback from staff as well. We are, for band, we are having, band will be within grade level. So last year there were some students that were having to go off grade level for band, as many of you know. Students will receive their band instruction in their grade level encore. And then wind ensemble, in addition to that, will have some before school practices so that the 7th and 8th graders who are both in wind ensemble can still have full band practice. So we worked really hard to make some changes in order to support all of our students so they still get what they need. And then we are also going to be spending a lot of time this year providing professional development related to instruction for students who are multilingual in order to be ready for our implementation next school year. That was a lot. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. It's you.
All right, thank you, Amy. So the technology strategic plan goal is to develop, review, and communicate a comprehensive technology plan on an annual basis, which focuses on equitable and engaging technology-rich learning environments, both inside and outside of the classroom, to serve our students, staff, and communities aligned with district goals. So the things that we worked on this year is we formed a technology planning and design team. That team consisted of different teachers and staff from different grade levels, administrators. We met 3 times this year. We first reviewed the progress towards the current technology plan. Then we put a survey together to gather staff input and hear really what their needs were and how things were going for them. And then we met to take all of that feedback and set some new goals, which I'll talk about in just a minute. We provided some professional development to staff, specifically around Parent Square, which you'll remember is our new communication platform. And we also did some introduction to artificial intelligence. We are working on right now, we've had probably about 100 staff members come in this summer on doing a certified staff device refresh. So the board approved this spring the purchase of new MacBooks, and so we have been getting those ready for teachers, and they are slowly coming in this summer to pick them up if they want to. So that's an exciting thing to see. We also worked on as a department a long-term refresh plan for infrastructure and equipment. So our equipment is really the backbone of everything that happens in the district, everything from cooling a room and making sure you know what the temperature is to providing instruction for students, and so making sure that that infrastructure is really where we need it to be, and we have a plan that makes sure we're balancing the budget and making the best use out of that equipment. In the upcoming year, based on the feedback from staff and the planning of that technology planning and design team, these are the goals that were identified. So creating consistency in classroom technology. So we have BenQs, but there's a little bit of variance between doc cams and other things like that. So creating a plan and getting those things also on a refresh cycle is going to be important to, again, for that consistency and consistency in budgeting also. And one of the things that we heard loud and clear from staff is more professional learning opportunities
And that can look like a variety of different ways. So some videos, some how-to guides, hopefully some time while staff is together in person, large group, small group. We're going to do what we can, specifically around utilizing our district online resources, but also incorporating the 4 C's, which are creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. Well, that was quiz to myself. So I'm gonna pass it over to Chris Wildman, I believe. All right.
Oh, no.
Nope. All right.
No.
Jose.
I'm Jose, not Chris, but sorry. Well, it's facility goals. So what we're going to do is review, expand, clarify the comprehensive master facilities plan on an annual basis to continue to create equitable, quality learning environments both inside and outside of the buildings to serve our students, staff, and communities with a focus on aligning decision making to district goals. What we've accomplished this year is we work with Wold and also Premistar, mechanical contractor, on long range of facility plans. They are older buildings, so there's a lot to look at. So the more help we get, the better we're going to be at getting the school district back together. The media center planning with also with Wold. This is the media center is something very important to all of us, which is what we put forth to the community during the referendum, and it's going to help enhance the student learning environment. Also, what was accomplished this year was the Park Campus outdoor learning space, and we are looking to continue that at several other schools like Frederick and GMS. So the next slide. For the next year, we will continue to work on the long range of facilities plan. We will continue to the media center renovation planning, constructions at excuse me, Prairie View, Park Campus, Frederick Campus, and GMS. Which is going to occur in 2026. We will plan the student support spaces with updates. We will investigate LED lighting at all buildings. This will obviously help in our commitment to the sustainability and saving energy, and obviously funds for our school district. Very much needed to help a lot of the poorly lit places, and also with controls added from what we're planning, we will also be able to control the lighting at any given time with controls that don't use kinetic energy, which is nothing that will need anything special to install. Also, we will continue for planning for outdoor learning spaces again for Frederick and GMS. With that, I will pass it over to Chris Wellman.
Thank you. I'm just going to read the finance goal. Review, expand, and clarify financial practices to increase transparency and communication with a focus on aligning financial decision making to district goals. So I will first talk about what we've accomplished this year. The finance committee met quite a lot, actually. I think we met 6 times. 3 of those were to establish what the levy was. We had a very robust discussion over those 3 meetings to be able to determine what was, and I said at the time, a momentous decision based on the information that we had with the additional EAV from the levy, from the referendum, to be able to really look at the long-term effects of that levy. And that decision was, I think, a great one that was done with all the input of the community and all the input from the board members. We've continued our sustainability dashboard that is available online. It shows all 4 of our solar photovoltaic arrays at all 4 of our buildings, which have solar panels. and we've continued to update our financial dashboard. Continuing the work, we are going to formalise the calendar for the Finance Committee, and we've actually give you an outline about what those are going to look like. So on September 17th, we'll be bringing Wald back to give an update on the Long Range Financial Plan. Alongside Wald, we will be bringing back Elizabeth Hennessy from Raymond James, who's going to be able to talk about what that funding and financing is going to look like to pay for those Long Range Financial Plan goals. On November 19th, we'll be bringing Baker Tilly here to give an audit update. Following that meeting, at the regular board meeting, the board will be able to vote on the audit results and discuss it further if necessary. On February 25th, we will be bringing a staffing discussion to you, because that fits very much well into the staffing timeline that we have established as part of our budget process. And then on May 20th, that will be the presentation of the preliminary budget, so we'll have the opportunity to use that Finance Committee before to discuss it in more details. And with that, I'm going to hand it on to Leslie, who's going to talk about the communications goal.
Good evening. The communication goal is to review, expand, and clarify communication methods to provide consistency and transparency with stakeholders and establish a CCSD 46 brand that supports the mission, vision, and values of the district. This past school year, we integrated our new communication platform, Parent Square, which included training building administrators, office staff, and teachers throughout the district, as well as providing information throughout the year in our newsletters and social media to encourage families to activate their accounts and to update their communication preferences. Student Services Communication, Dr. Lorenzo and her team worked to streamline their communications with staff by utilizing the teaching and learning updates with dedicated information for student services topics, including overview of updates, the welcome back to school information, behavior support, privacy and confidentiality, accommodations, and assessment information. We also added a Board of Education update section to our district newsletter, and I've heard positive feedback from our community that they really enjoy that addition. School newsletters. We worked on consistency in our school newsletters this year, including sending information home on a more consistent basis through the building newsletters, making sure the information was consistent throughout the district, and we worked on Parent Square templates for each school with consistent format. We also created an internal document which is shared with all school administrators to make sure that the district messages are also being communicated through the school newsletters. Next slide. For this upcoming year, we are looking to continue to improve our family engagement and increase the number of families who are using the Parent Square app to interact with our teachers, buildings, and the district. And with that, Dr. Glickman.
Thanks, Leslie. You know, Board, our team really enjoys both preparing this report every year and delivering it, because it is such a wonderful opportunity for us to reflect on what we accomplished as a school district the prior year. This is really just a high-level summary of the work of the school district, and that work is, for the most part, directed by the goals that were set through the strategic plan. Sometimes the work also is related to other things that happen that we have to respond to, but to the best of our ability, we keep our focus on the goals that have already been set. And then we have the opportunity to talk deeply about what the work will be ahead, and that was the second slide that you saw for each one of our goal areas. So with that, what questions might you have for us?
Oh, wow. Right? Would a longer school day for students help to support that? Absolutely, right? We would be able to have more opportunities to be able to support our students and kind of spread out that instruction a little bit. Yeah, I mean, The short answer to that is yes. That's a really good question. Yeah, I think I probably would have to look into it and look into. I know there are different school districts in the area and within both Northern Cook and Lake County and McHenry County that do have longer student days. So we'd probably be looking at what some of those are and looking at what would make sense. Well, I mean, yeah, it's very.
Yeah, I can speak to that, right. So, it's much more than just so I think you're looking at a lot of people, even Mr. Wildman behind me, who's worrying about the budget, as are we all, who would love to have a longer school day. But as we allude to, there are many complications related to that, including the fact that we've just approved new employment contracts for both of our employee groups that are based on a particular length of day. So those are just some of the things that we have to think about as we think about whether or not we can have a longer day. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Our vendors, for sure. But it sounds good. Yes. And you were asked from the instructional perspective. Yes. Other questions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Some of the survey questions that the planning and design team put together some of those questions did focus on BenQ. I think a theme that came through was really people are using it the way they feel comfortable using it, and if they had more support and more time, professional learning time specifically around BenQ, but kind of like Amy's answer of, would more student time be great? Of course it would, but also it's a balancing act. We have only so much time to provide professional learning opportunities for our staff, so finding the right balance and ways to incorporate BenQ training into that. Part of what we're also looking at is BenQ boards were purchased with ESSER funds, and ESSER funds are no more. And so finding a way that we can start to plan for when those will need to be refreshed as well. So we're starting to really plan ahead and think through what that could look like. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great question. So band students will still have band during encore. So there's what is the piece that's going to be happening before school. So here at GMS, jazz band was already before school. Wind ensemble and symphonic band were both during encore. And wind ensemble most specifically had students from both 7th and 8th grade. And so what happened this past school year is we had to tweak some student schedules in order so that they could have a full band practice. So they will still have band during their encore with Mr. Thomas, work on all the things that they need to be working on to be successful in wind ensemble. But then in order to make sure they still have that full band experience with both 7th and 8th grade, they'll do that a few days a week before school as well. So they'll still get that during their encore class. And then if students are in choir but not in band, then they would go to the other encores. Because choir will just be before school. I'll just stay here. I mean, I had the most slides, so. Yeah, so that was just this school year. It was one of the changes we initially made in the 5/8 schedule. There were lots of reasons behind that, but some of it was that the 5th grade teachers are using a K-5 resource, and that resource was recommending a longer period of time for instruction. And so they were trying to still mirror, one, to provide that transition from 4th grade to 5th grade, to more mirror what the elementary literacy blocks look like. Most of our all of our elementary literacy blocks were between 110 and 120 minutes. So they were trying to mirror that a little bit, brought that down to 106, which allowed them to have whole group instruction, writing instruction, small group writing instruction, small group reading instruction. And so we tried that this year, but while the benefit was there for literacy, it was taking away from the other contents. Mm-hmm. In terms of math, so math was already with the new schedule this year was 70 minutes at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It will now also be 70 minutes at 5th grade. So minute wise, there's plenty of time for whole group instruction, small group instruction, and time to ensure that our students are able to apply what it is they're working on. With the new math resource embedded into that time, there's a lot of time for math talk. There's math discourse, there's opportunity to have hands-on exploration and hands-on learning to better understand the mathematical standards and to more deeply understand what it is that they are learning as far as math practice. So it's not just about the way that most of us learned math, where it was a lot of memorization and a lot of rote instruction. Everything through our articulation with the high school is about how do we interact deeper with our students to have them get to a deeper level of understanding of their math standards. And so that's something that we've been working really hard to ensure that our students are going to be able to get before they get to the high school. Yeah. I'm just going to stay.
I'll just add that one of the things that is most difficult in running any organization is getting the day out. Like making sure kids show up, teachers show up, and good instruction happens, and all the things that go in with day in and day out, while still pushing a strategic plan forward. Very, very difficult to unwind yourself from getting the day out, especially as things emerge and deal with the emerging issues, and keep your eye on the goal. So I just wanted to, I think I've said this before, but I don't see often in my other interactions with organizations, non-educational, the amount of discipline to stay focused on a strategic plan and not get pulled off course by the events of the day or the events of the month. And we've had some pulls. So I wanted to tell you all again that that's exceptional. It's not it's the exception and not the rule, I would say. So thank you so much for your consistent push towards the strategy piece, as well as making every day really good. Thank you. And sorry, I'm lost in a world of papers here. Get my, what's our last? We have one last topic. It's a budget update. Mr. Wildman stands alone.
Yeah. All my friends left me. It's okay. Okay, good evening, members of the board, administration, and community. Anybody's watching online. Today I'll be providing a budget update for fiscal year 25-26. This budget update reflects the latest developments since the tentative budget was presented in June. We've just talked a lot about the mission, but I'll just talk about it again. As we discuss the budget, it's important to center ourselves in our mission. Empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. These pillars guide all the financial decisions that ensure all our resources are aligned to support students and staff. There's the strategic goal again that I just already talked about. It allows us to focus on increased financial transparency, which is what we're literally talking about tonight, aligning decision making with district goals, and then we have our board policy 4:20 as we aim to maintain an operating fund balance between 25 and 30%. So here's the timetable that I've presented at the tentative. You might notice that there's an additional update in here. It wasn't on the original timeline. We reviewed the preliminary budget in May, the tentative in June. Here we are producing an update for you for discussion and to understand where we're at in our budget planning. The budget will remain on public display through mid-September, and we still plan to have our hearing September 17th, and then it'll be filed with the state on September 30th. So here are the updates. Several changes since our last review. Updates include, not surprising, the full costing of the GFT contract has been included. So that includes all the different areas that were ratified and approved tonight. Have been included in the budget. We have received the negative news, I guess, that our state grant, which is the teacher vacancy grant, has been decreased by 33%. It was $185,000, and now it's $123,383. So that was a state grant that we just received that allocation for the upcoming year, for this school year that we're just in now. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about federal funding in the next few slides, specifically title and idea. So, this was a slide I presented back in January. Major development impacting federal funding was the executive order that was issued, which paused all federal grants and loans at the time. This federal level decision affects programs across the country, as you know, including education streams that we rely on. So I'm now going to talk about them in the next slide, please. Okay. This slide highlights the specific federal funding that we believe could be at risk, and some of them are at risk, that we're actually recommending that they're reduced from the budget. So we have Title 1 through 4 and IDEA. The uncertainty makes it difficult for us to plan long-term programming when we depend on these funds. Before I do that, I'm going to actually talk about what each one of them is. So Title 1 is improving the academic achievement of the disadvantaged. So that provides financial assistance to schools with high numbers or high percentage of children with low-income families. Then we have Title 2, which is preparing, training, and recruiting high-quality teachers and principals. That's the aim of that is to increase academic achievement by improving teacher and principal quality. And we have Title 3, which is language instruction for English language learners and immigrant students. Self-explanatory, that one. And then Title 4, which I've not included in here, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway, is student support and academic enrichment. And the purpose of that is a block grant that supports well-rounded education. In the past, we've actually included our Title 4 grant in our other allocations. And then we have IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And the purpose of that legislation is to ensure that students with disabilities receive free and appropriate public education in the most least restrictive environment that we can provide for them. So I put this chart together as a way to kind of illustrate the walkthrough of how we budget in terms of what we've received in previous years, what we believed we were going to receive back at the original discussions in January, February, March through May, what our actual allocations are as of today, and what those reductions look like. So as you can see, we have Title, which is around $315,000. Then we have Title 2, which is actually our carryover from the previous fiscal year. Title 3, we don't believe we're going to receive anything, and the reason we think we're going to receive anything because there's no actual grant application available to us. And usually we actually have to go through a whole cycle to be able to receive that funding, and ISB hasn't released anything. So there is no money available for Title 3. In terms of IDEA Pre-K and the IDEA Flow-Through, we're just showing those for kind of, we actually believe we were going to receive $992,000, but there was actually a percentage, a decrease of IDEA. So we're expecting to receive $869,711. Next slide, please. So why do we think these are at risk? Because currently $6.8 billion, I said the right word, billion, in title funding is being withheld due to federal empowerment. While the Empowerment Control Act of 1974 is designed to prevent such withholding, we're in unprecedented territory, watching carefully to see how this may play out both legally and financially. So again, I think a statement there that we're trying to understand what's going to be a long-term funding, what's going to be funded next year, and what's going to be funded in the long term. So we're monitoring both the budget for 25-26 and what are the long-term implications of federal funding beyond that. Slide, please. So the current operating budget as presented was $1.8 million deficit. Withdrawing Title 1, Title 2, and Title 3 is about $300,000 from the previous slide. If that is actually what we have, we're at $2.1 million deficit. In terms of that look forward beyond the fiscal year for 25-26, the most recent federal budget that passed doesn't actually have any impacts for 25-26. It's impacting everything beyond, and a lot of those changes actually won't even take effect till 2028. There's a couple which are definitely worthy of note because it's now been passed. It has been passed through Congress. The first one is Medicaid will be cut by 15% over the next decade. So that's going to be two issues for the district. Number one, we're going to receive less Medicaid, and then the second thing is there's going to be less people Medicaid eligible who are going to qualify for services, which means our title will be cut. It's kind of a vicious cycle, if you will. And then the SNAP benefits, which the legislation states will be imposing work conditions on, which could limit eligibility, which if it limits eligibility of parents, it means those students don't qualify for free lunches, which could have an effect on the National School Lunch Program numbers, both breakfast and lunch. So these are not something that we can quantify today, but they're definitely a lens that we need to be looking at future budget decisions, specifically as part of the 5-year projections. Next slide, please. So the next step, obviously, there's lawsuits which have been filed by states. There's advocacy that's happened in terms of making sure that this impoundment doesn't continue and that the funding is actually released. But on a district level, we're going to obviously continue to monitor this and see what the impact is, both for this fiscal year and moving forward in those projections. Public hearing will still go ahead on September 17th, and after that, depending on where we're at in that filing, we're obviously advocating that it's a $2.1 million deficit right now. We'll prepare for that financial projections based on that updated budget assessment. And that's it. That's my presentation.
Chris, do you know if Illinois joined that lawsuit? I'm assuming they did.
Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, Illinois is one of the filings.
Thanks.
Budget hearing and it goes in the newspaper. I'm not sure how many people actually see it though.
Well, that will come through the board briefs for sure. We've just done this presentation. You know, I'm concerned that any other article written could be misunderstood as not being written as not being objective, and we wouldn't want that. So I think At the moment, I'm thinking it's probably best for it to come through the board briefs. Yeah.
But we can call attention to the board briefs.
Certainly. Certainly.
I just also want to note that we received an email from IASB about contacting our federal legislators about the funding delay. And I think it might be helpful for us as a board to put something together for Rep. Schneider as well as for our senators. I know they're aware, but I think our voice at this point and the pressure is very, very important. So I'd be willing to either, there's a letter here. I'm wondering if it might even be more impactful if we put something together as a board to send, or even ask for a meeting with him when he's home, particularly. So if you guys think that would be a good idea, I'd be happy to. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. We have no new business this evening, so we will move to topics for future agenda items.
Certainly. Well, the next board meeting is on August 13th. That date is familiar to me for another reason, because it's also the first day of school. So we're looking forward to that evening. We have one presentation that evening, which is Performance Services coming to do a solar energy update. And then we're all going to be looking towards a short meeting, on the first day of school. September 3rd, we have two presentations we'll be bringing to you. That'll be a summer facilities update. You'll get to see photos, get a full report on all of the wonderful work that's happened this summer having to do with our facilities, and also summer technology projects update. They go hand in hand in some ways. September 17th will be that first finance focus meeting that Chris was talking about and I mentioned during the superintendent's report. So we'll have a long range plan update from Wold. We'll have a financing update from Raymond James. We'll have the public hearing for that budget that Chris just talked about, along with the proposed timeline for the levy. And that brings us to the end of September.
Thanks, Dr. Glickman. Do we have any public comments that came in? Okay, great. Can I get a motion to move into closed session? Right, that's our next. Oh, yes, I have it. I found it. All right. For the purposes from Act 5 ILCS 120/2C1, for the purposes of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Get a motion for that, please.
Hume? Nash? Miller? Halverson? Weedman? And Braden.
Aye.